Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Current Affairs Unfiltered. I'm your host, Paige Fullman. And welcome to the final installment of Candidate Month. And I really hope you guys like this one. This was very exciting to get to talk to Democrats that are running all across the country. It's been very exciting. And this week, I'm very excited to be bringing in a candidate from Nebraska, in Nebraska's 2nd district, which is sure to be one of the most closely watched races. It is looking like it could be a district to be a potential Democratic flip, and that is Nebraska 2 is that district that when you're watching John King and Steve Kornacki do the maps, it's where they zoom in on Nebraska and there's that one little blue dot. That's the district that it's in. So it's a very interesting and quirky little district. But today we'll be talking to Denise Powell, who I am just so fascinated with her background and, kind of more of the private sector stuff and starting her own kind of nonprofit and focused around helping women run for office. It was just so inspiring. So I'm very, very excited to get to speak with her about her run for office. But Denise Powell is a former corporate executive turned small business owner and working mom who left a successful career in corporate America to focus on fighting for what makes Nebraska such a special place to live. Over the past decade, she has supported hundreds of Nebraskans running for local office, protected our public schools and the families they serve, and helped stop extremists from passing abortion bans in the state. Now, Denise is running for Congress in Nebraska's 2nd congressional district because she's tired of seeing Nebraskans struggle to make ends meet, while Donald Trump and MAGA extremists are focused on trade wars that are increasing our cost of living and passing massive tax breaks for billionaires. Denise isn't a politician. She's a pissed-off mom who's ready to stand up to Trump and get real things done for Nebraskans. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Denise. Denise, thank you so much for coming on. It is great to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's start with your background. You left a successful corporate career to focus on community advocacy. What pushed you to take that leap?
Donald Trump pushed me to take that leap after. That's the only thing I'll give him credit for. So after the election in 2016, I think I was like a lot of people. I just felt incredibly frustrated, and I was doing all the things, that a lot of us were doing at that time, screaming to our pillows, but also like signing petitions and going to every rally and writing to my elected officials, and nobody was writing me back. So many of the things that I cared about felt like they were under attack at one time. So, I've been advocating for public schools for a long time, and we had Betsy DeVos at the helm of the Department of Education. And obviously I'm a woman. I have a, teenage daughter, like reproductive rights are something that are very important to me. Democracy, crazy talk, something very important to me. And just everything was just like, it was one thing after another. And it felt like everybody was giving me some variation of, this is why I don't do politics. Like, it's so gross. That was such an ugly election. Everything was so terrible about that cycle. And so people were checking out of the conversation. And I felt like I wanted to check out too of the conversation. And so I wanted to create a way for people to be able to engage in politics in a way that was positive again, and in a way that felt good and hopeful. And so I created this organization with a friend of mine called Women Who Run Nebraska. It's kind of the Nebraska version of Emily's List is probably the best way to describe it. And we were just looking for women who are running for office. We could provide them support, rally people to provide training, and obviously raise money for them. And the first event ever was in my living room, and we invited 10 women who we knew were running for office. I remember that was our pink wave year when like all the women were like, we are doing this.
Yeah.
Invited about 10 women. They invited a few friends. And next thing you know, we had 15 candidates and 150 people in my living room. And we used the little step stool that my kids use to brush their teeth as a podium, and my friend's karaoke microphone, and had this amazing event where every woman just introduced herself, and they were all so different and running for different reasons. And at the end of the event, people were like, oh my God, when's the next event? And that's how this organization was born, because suddenly people could see a way through this mess, and something to believe in again, something to lean into again. And it was a great way for me to use my experience. My background is corporate communications. I've worked for, big PR agencies all over the country, in-house at big corporations. It was a way for me to use my skills as a marketer, as a communicator, as a brander to sort of brand this idea of getting excited about women running for office again. And it really worked. We've endorsed got like hundreds of women at this point in time. We've been around for 8 years. Worked with everybody from women running for the governor's mansion to the legislature, school boards. And it's been absolutely amazing and inspiring. And it gave me hope again at a time where I really, really needed it. And I think it's done the same for a lot of people. And I'm so flippin' proud of that team. They're still going. I had to take a leave of absence because now I am a woman who runs. But they are still doing like killer stuff over there. They just endorsed a ton of awesome women. There's so many women running for office again in 26. I'm kind of hopeful for another pink wave. It's exciting to see that continue. And, once again, here we are in 2025. And I think there's a need for that hope again and that optimism and that thing to like look forward to. So Women Who Run lives in perpetuity. And I'm just proud of having been a little part of it.
Right. So what was it from, you were more behind the scenes, like in terms of election work. Like what was it that like just pushed you to finally be like, let me start collecting signatures. My turn to be on the ballot. Like what was that moment for you?
Well, here's the exciting thing, Paige. You don't have to collect signatures in Nebraska.
Oh,
you can just
news
put your
to
name
me.
on the ballot. It's not exciting. Anybody can just put their name on the ballot. Yeah, it is.
Is that unique to Nebraska, or am I just talking out of my ass about
states
Illinois?
like that, but very few. No, I was at candidate week, in DC. You bring a bunch of candidates together and talking to a lot of other candidates, and they were talking about signature collection. And I was like, well,
I just put my name on there.
I just put my name on there. I just raised my hand.
That's so interesting.
You know what? It is, honestly, once again, like this running for office is actually not something I ever thought to do. I really love being behind the scenes. My organization has worked on a bunch of ballot measures in the state here in Nebraska. We have a unicameral, which is unique to us. It's one house, 49 senators that make lots and lots of rules. And so we pass a lot of really good legislation by ballot measure. And so that's what I love doing. I mean, I've spent the last 8 years like traveling the state, knocking on doors and talking to like thousands and thousands of people. Right. And that's part of it, is that in those 8 years, talking to thousands and thousands of people, I keep hearing from folks that, and this isn't new, this has been happening for 8 years, that they are so frustrated by their government and they just don't feel like politicians get them or see them, and they don't think government's working for them. And it's, again, that same conversation of like, I don't do politics, right? Like it's not for me. It doesn't work for me. Our Democratic nominee from last cycle, Tony Vargas, is a good friend of mine, and we met for coffee back in December. And he said, I think you should consider running for this seat. And honestly, my initial response was absolutely not, because I know how hard it is to do this. It's a big undertaking. And I have a family. This had to be a family decision. And, I had a lot of the same thoughts that a lot of women have when they're asked to run for office. Like, maybe I'm not the right fit. Maybe I'm not the right choice. And then this administration just kept getting progressively crappier and doing worse and worse things. And it was like 2016 all over again, but like on steroids.
Right.
And made me feel like maybe in this moment, what we need is not a politician. It's like a pissed off working mom who's tired. And like, I sit at my son's basketball games and I talk to parents there who are struggling and talking about grocery prices, talking about supports to their kids with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I sit in boardrooms on boards that I serve on, and I'm talking to folks. I'm talking to small business owners who are feeling it. Like, in this moment, there's almost a unique solidarity in our shared pain. Like, everybody is feeling the pinch at some point. So I decided to jump in the race, and it's been great. I got in May 1st. This was before Don Bacon announced he was retiring. I was going to give Don Bacon a run for his money. I like to pretend that I scared him out of the race, but I don't think that's quite true. But now he's retiring. He is retiring, and, after 10 years of service, so it's an open seat now. There's a ton of energy in this district. This is one of the most watched districts in the country. This is one of 3 in the country that went for Harris, but the Republican incumbent held their seat last cycle. So this is like everybody's great white whale. We all want to flip this seat. We all want to win this seat. And more, it seems like the stars are aligning to get us there. So it's a really exciting time to be in the race.
Right. I'm sure the results from over the month of November were making everybody in Nebraska too look very hopeful.
So good. And not just New Jersey and Virginia, which is like huge, and to have such incredible women in those races. But I found so much hope in like the little races in Mississippi and in Georgia. And I had a
Right.
friend who lives in Connecticut who said they like flipped a school board seat and a city council seat. Like
Right.
change is a coming. Change is a
Right.
coming. And we're seeing it here. I mean, here in Omaha this past May, we elected our first Black Democratic mayor, ousted a 12-year Republican incumbent. And I think it's just a sign that people are really looking for something different in this point in time.
Right. Right. So you founded your organization, and
Yeah.
what did that experience teach you about what Nebraskans really want from their leaders?
Yeah. I mean, the types of women that we've endorsed have been like they've run the gamut. The kinds of races that we've been involved in have run the gamut, and the work on the ballot measures that we've done as well. And I think what that experience has, and I'll just give you an experience from last summer. Last summer here in Nebraska, we were circulating 4 ballot measures. One was to expand access to abortion. One was to legalize medical cannabis. One was to enact paid sick leave. And one was to repeal a school voucher bill. And my team was basically, we would go out into the most rural parts of the district and talk to people about these issues. And so you do have to walk up these like long dirt roads in the middle of nowhere by yourself with these 4 things. And you have to have meaningful conversations with people, and you have to accept when they don't agree with you on something, because you need to find some common ground, because you don't want to leave that house without at least one signature on one of those petitions, right? And so you're talking to people and they're saying to you, like, I will never support that because X, Y, and Z. And they're sharing their stories and why they think the way that they do. And then they'll say, but you know what? My mom was a public school teacher, so I want to sign the petition to repeal the vouchers and keep public money in our public schools. Or my husband was a vet and somebody, PTSD, somebody told me medical cannabis could have helped him. We didn't know how to access it. And being able to find common ground on some things and not all things was actually a lot easier than I expected it to be. When you can have a conversation with someone and just really just share your values. Like, I'm doing this because I care about kids. I want the 90% of kids who go to Nebraska public schools to have everything that they need to be successful. When you can share values with somebody, you can actually find a lot of common ground.
Right.
And that is the Nebraska thing. Like, Nebraskans are really amazing people. And I know I'm biased, but these are people who we appreciate work ethic and family and community. And those are not partisan values. Those are, I like to say they're Nebraska values, but I'm sure there are people all over the country who would say those are their values too. And when you can lean in on those and really just start from that place, you can bring a lot of people on board. And I think most Nebraskans are willing to listen. Even houses where somebody really didn't want to talk to me on a hot day, they offer me a cool glass of water, a Gatorade. Do you need to use the bathroom? I mean, that's who Nebraskans are. And I think we have to take that same approach. Like, politics has become so divisive and so ugly, and we're constantly yelling at each other in sound bites and, Twitter, Twitter, whatever's, you know what I'm talking about?
Feuds, fights.
Feuds, Twitter fights. Yeah, we're just going back and forth all the time, and it's so gross. But when you can actually talk to people like human beings, accept that you're never going to agree on every issue, and that's okay. If you can find some common ground, I think that's how you bring people together. And that's the approach that I'm taking on this campaign. I'm really trying to lean into the issues that I hear from literally everybody. I mean, I sit with groups of 20 75-year-old conservative Republicans, and then I sit in a room with 20 young progressives. And there's a lot of similarities there. They're worried about healthcare. They're worried about affordability. Young people who are like, my parents bought a house when they were 25. That's never going to be me. These are very real and very shared issues. And I think when people realize that, it kind of makes them feel a little bit less alone and a little bit less divided. And I think that's the only way that we win and keep the energy going in a way that's sustainable and not just a violent swing of the pendulum left and right.
Right. Well, that's almost every guest that I've had on will say, one of the keys to getting out of this moment that we are in is to have conversations, is to talk to people and, talk to your neighbor about your grocery prices, talk to your neighbor about how, things are getting tough, and see where you can find those areas of common ground, even if you disagree with them. That's one of the paths out of this.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, when you look at statistics on like the ACA, there are more Republicans on the Affordable Care Act than Democrats. That was a statistic I saw a few months ago. So again, like when we're talking about subsidies and the ACA becoming less affordable for people, um, not a partisan issue. They're not
Right.
choosing to make the ACA less affordable for Democrats or Republicans. It's everybody. Like we're all in this boat together. And I think a lot of it is like connecting the dots for people, because I think most people, you and I get to like nerd out on this stuff all day, right? Like I'm reading stuff all day. I'm on
Right.
Twitter. I listen to my podcast, or I do all the things. But like most people are just trying to get out of the house, make sure their kids are wearing both their shoes, like, maybe working a second job at the end of the day. Like there's
Right.
just a lot. And so they're not always paying attention to how the federal policies or state policies or any policies are really impacting their lives. They just know that things are not going well for them. So
Right.
our job as candidates, I think, is just connecting the dots and being like, because of this
Right.
bill, this piece of legislation, this is why you're feeling this. And we should do something about this, don't you think? And most of the time the answer is, well, yeah, yeah, of course
Right.
we should do something about it. So,
Right.
it's just got to win them one tweet at a time, right?
Right. I am always so intrigued though and I'm sure there's probably a bunch of people out there like this that are going to get their premium costs in the next few weeks and be like, how the hell did that happen? Like, I'm so
Mhm.
intrigued by the people that are so disconnected that they are genuinely going to be dumbfounded and shocked by
Shocked.
what they see.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, I think once those letters started coming out, I was getting pictures of people's letters all the time and talking to people who were saying like, well, we're kind of healthy, so we might just forego healthcare or, we might take the lower
Right.
coverage option or like we might just cover the kids, but not, I mean, these are real conversations that people were
Right.
having. I was talking to small business owners who were asking clients like to hold payment on certain projects until the new year so they wouldn't like go above the threshold. Like we're punishing people for doing all the right things. I mean, and
Right.
I think that conversation really shifted over the last few months. When I got into this race, we were talking a lot about Medicaid because of the big beautiful bill. And you could just see that people who aren't on Medicaid or don't know someone on Medicaid were kind of like, that's
Okay.
terrible, but it's not really my
Yeah.
problem, right? Like, oh,
Right.
that sucks. But with the ACA, that conversation suddenly expanded. And now you've got entrepreneurs, folks who have startups. We have a huge startup community here in Omaha. You've got people who work for nonprofits. You've got sole practitioners who suddenly are like, whoa, whoa, me too? Like, yeah,
Right.
you too. Because this is like a Jenga stack. And when you start pulling out the bottom pieces of the Jenga stack, the whole thing is going to come crumbling down. And I think folks are really starting to feel that.
Right. Absolutely. And I have talked about it with a couple of guests, but like people forget, and people my age don't even know what life was like before the ACA. And again, when you
Mhm.
start pulling at those Jenga pieces and,
Mhm.
you know, pulling back what's in the ACA, like that's not a life and a world that we want to live in. Like being
Mhm.
a woman was a pre-existing condition.
Mhm. Uh-huh.
What do
Just
you
FYI.
mean? Like
Yeah. Well, that old uterus really gets you.
exactly. You brought up those values of hard work, work ethic, family, and
Yeah.
community that you are calling the Nebraska values. How have those values shaped the way that you are approaching public service?
Um, I think it sort of sets the tone for coming at it authentically. I mean, like I'll tell you right now, I have two kids. My husband is with our 11-year-old at urgent care right now because I just got a text live while we're on this podcast that he has the flu. He tested positive for the flu. He's been sick all week. Which means that like we have had to do the juggle thing too. Like luckily right now on this campaign, I get to work from my kitchen table most of the time. But if I have meetings, if I have something, if somebody needs to pick up medication, a prescription, whatever, like we had to figure out that juggle too. And um, we're in an okay position just because I have some flexibility right now. But I've been on the other side of this when I haven't had the same flexibility. And knowing that like one sick kid can really screw up a family's week, a family's month, a family's year, folks who lose wages if they can't go to work or might get fired if they can't go to work to take care of a child. So what are you going to do? Leave your kid home alone, sick if they're old enough. Like, it's just this terrible situation. And I think if we can talk to people like human beings, and if we can share some of our own struggles, like I've been there, I know what it feels like to try to figure out
Right.
the cost of childcare and figure out like whether you should quit your job. Is it better for you to quit your job and stay home with your child, or make the sacrifice of putting your kid in childcare? Those challenges that families face every day are really real, and I think really relatable. And so beyond just talking about these high level policy ideas, I think people just want to know, like, I get it. I get it. Like, I don't understand all of it. I'm not, there are people who are struggling with things that I will never understand, hopefully will never fully understand, but I can appreciate that in this moment, what they need from their government is support. They need the social safety nets that we have been promised. They need the systems that
Right.
we have paid into. Um, they need. And we have an administration they've proven time and time again that they just don't care about people. They just
Right.
don't care about people. They are happy to let, millions of people starve to make some political point. They just don't care. And to me, that is the most fundamental thing. I think there is so much power in showing up and showing people that you actually give a damn about them, especially in this
Right.
moment where we have an administration who clearly doesn't and proves it time and time and again. So leaning into that, like, listen, I get it. I freaking love this state. I have spent the last decade fighting for this state, fighting for access to care, fighting for our public schools, fighting for the things that families need. And I'm going to keep doing that. And I'm going to keep showing up for you. And you don't have to agree with me on everything. These 4 ballot measures we're talking about, you might only agree with me on one of them, but I'm still going to fight for you because you deserve it. And that messaging, just being authentic and leaning into that messaging, I think just resonates in a way that people really need right now, especially right now in this moment.
Right. Another thing on your website that I found very intriguing is that you say
Mhm.
the good life is getting harder to come by,
Yeah.
which I then found out was part of Nebraska's state motto, which that kind of made
Yes.
me want to get up and move there a little bit. I
Come
would
on
like the
down.
good life.
Yeah. Well, it's becoming harder to come by, Paige.
Right. Well, okay. So the question in there is
Yeah.
you say the good life is getting harder to come by. What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Like, what are you seeing on the ground in Nebraska that is showing you that it is getting harder to come by and might be why they nixed it from the state motto?
Yeah. They were like, oh, maybe not. Well, I think the thing that makes Nebraska so special, like, this is a place, I always say Nebraska like punches above its weight class. Like, this is a really amazing place. We have so much to be proud of in our state. When I moved here 16 years ago, I was a newlywed, moved here with literally a U-Haul of books and like the toaster that we had just gotten for our like wedding gift. We, had sold all of our like junky IKEA furniture because we were like, we're not paying to move it, like, so we really came here with nothing. We bought our first house here, had our 2 children here, and we were able to build a life here in Nebraska that I don't know that we would have ever been able to do anywhere else. And part of it is because this is a place that is affordable. It's a place that is safe. This is a place where the schools are strong. All the things that you look at, especially that young families look at when they're starting their life. They want to know that it's a place where they can maybe buy a house and they can afford to live, and they're going to have access to cool stuff, and they're going to have a good, strong public school system for their kids. And over the last 16 years that I've been here, we have been subject to the same, pressures that people all around the country have seen. So housing costs have gone up, housing availability, housing stock, right, has gone down. Even as we build and build and build apartments, it's just not enough. And there's not enough affordable
Right.
housing for people. And the affordability crisis in general is causing a lot of pinch points. We also have a state government that has been slowly chipping away at our public schools, trying to erode our public schools. And what's happening at the federal level is not helping. So suddenly, a lot of the things that families love and depend on, and the things that make Nebraska such a great place, are just getting a little less, uh, you know, easy. They're just not as available anymore. So my sister moved out here 3 years ago. And even in that difference of time, like, they really struggled to find a house that they could afford here. She was like, where are all the houses that were available when you moved here 16 years ago? Like, it's completely changed. It's completely changed. And this is a great place. We have lots of people who want to come live here. We have a world-class medical center. We have an amazing art scene. We have an incredible tech and startup community. There's a lot of reasons to come here. And we're just not keeping up. We're just not keeping up with it. And so I'm talking to people all over the whole district and all over the state who are just like, this isn't the place it used to be. Like, just everything's getting a little bit harder. And it feels very like this shouldn't be happening here in Nebraska. This is Nebraska. We should be better than that. But we're all feeling it. And, I mean, if you look at what's happening in our ag community, agriculture is a huge part of our state's economy. And right now, our farmers are just getting hosed. So
Right.
all of those pressures are coming to a head. And I think people are feeling more and more stressed out. And that this whole idea of the good life, like,
Right.
maybe it's not as easy to come by as it used to be.
I will say you are an excellent saleswoman because I kind of want to move to Nebraska now.
You gotta at least come visit. It is honestly this moving to this state was the best decision I ever made. Truly, like, we feel so lucky here. My kids are going to be lifelong Nebraskans. Born and raised in Nebraska. Like, it's amazing. People here are kind. They work hard. Like, whenever
Right.
there's anything that happens in this community, people rally and lift one another up. It's amazing. And that's why I'm in this race, because people in this state are great and they freaking deserve better. And it just bothers me that we have a federal delegation that pretends that
Right.
we don't.
Well, I think some of it is just like the public perception of Nebraska is that it is this like
Yeah.
rural, whatever.
Yeah.
You're saying that you have a robust like startup community and tech community.
Mm-hmm.
News to me. Like,
Oh, yeah.
because I think a lot about how I'd love to just get a big piece of land and raise some chickens, but I'm like, I wouldn't be able to keep my like corporate communications job. But you said you worked in communications, so obviously it's
Absolutely
doable.
could. You could do it. You could have it all here in Nebraska.
Although it's a little bit more expensive than it was 16
It's a little bit more
years ago.
expensive, so just watch out. But you could still
Right.
have it all. You're just going to have to pay a little bit more for it.
Right. Well, and it's also interesting because when people make the move to a more rural, and I'm putting that in air quotes, state, it's usually to keep costs and prices down. And like you said, it is usually more affordable. But when you're already in what is supposed to be a low cost state, where are you supposed to go from there?
Right.
Your options
Yeah.
are even more limited. Like, there's
Yeah.
not much you can do after that.
Right. Where do you go from here? And we talk a lot about brain drain in Nebraska because that's something people are really worried about, especially in some of our more rural communities. They're losing population here in Omaha. We're lucky. We've got people who still want to come here and move here, but brain drain is a real thing. And part of that is this housing crisis. I mean, it's a crisis. It's, again, I talk to young people who can't ever see themselves actually buying a house or starting a family or whatever. Like, they're just like it's too great a cost. Like, they just don't see it ever happening for them, or certainly not
Right.
happening in the same timeline that it happened for my generation when,
Right.
we bought our first house. I think I was 30, and when I moved, I have no idea how old I was, 30, 31, when I moved here. And, I had friends who were buying their first houses in their 20s, but now we're talking about folks who are like, I'm just going to rent for the rest of my life because everything's so wonky and it's so crazy.
Right.
And it has to, like, when we talk about affordable housing, it has to be like high quality affordable housing. It's not just like junk, apartment buildings. We need people to be able to live with dignity and, have a safe place to be. And the costs are just, it's more than most people can deal with right now.
Right.
Certainly people with families who need more than one bedroom, like a 2-bedroom apartment here is getting close to $1,500, $1,800 a month. Like, how can a family that's making minimum wage afford that? They just can't.
Right. I know $1,500 is a lot of money, but I wish that was the rent here in Chicago.
I'm sure. Yeah. But that would have never been the case here in Omaha like 10 years ago. Now it's like, wait, what? How much? 1,800?
Well, that's still a lot. Like, I remember even in Chicago, my sophomore year, I lived in a studio apartment that was, God, probably 250, maybe 300 square feet, and that was $1,300. Like,
yeah,
that was a lot of money for my little shoebox.
That was a lot of money. Yes, it was. I bet it was an adorable shoebox.
It wasn't. I miss that apartment every day. I think about how it took me like 10 steps to walk across the entire apartment, but I miss her dearly.
Good times.
So let's move on to some of your policies. As you
Yeah.
just mentioned, Nebraska farmers, especially your soybean growers, are being squeezed by tariffs. What concrete steps would you like to take in Congress to ease that pressure and make trade policy work for rural communities instead of against them?
Oh my gosh. This is the most frustrating, maddening thing. So in Nebraska, we do beef, corn, and soybean. Those are our three largest producing crops. And the tariffs, Trump's tariffs in particular with China, completely screwed our soybean farmers. Um, China was buying all of their soybeans from Argentina. Now that has lifted a little bit. And then to add insult to injury, Trump bails out Argentina with a $40 billion check, um, which puts our cattlemen under a lot of strain. And here's what it's a domino effect. So when our cattlemen are under strain, then the corn producers are under strain because they provide the feed. And when they're not selling, the people who drive the trucks aren't working and the people who run the feed stores aren't working. And so it's this really fragile ecosystem that these tariffs, starting with these tariffs, has like totally ruined. And our farmers here, they're the hardest working freaking people that you have ever met. These are people who have farmed this land for generations. They're not looking for some sort of a hand up. They just want Trump and these people to stop screwing with the markets because these markets take decades to build. And Trump comes in and creates this roller coaster foreign economic policy and wipes all of these agreements away. I'm glad that there is going to be some relief for these farmers in this $12 billion bailout, not a $40 billion bailout like he gave to Argentina, but
Right.
fine, $12 billion bailout. But what I also know, I've been talking to a lot of farmers about this in the last couple of days, is this money basically uses the farmers as a pass through to fund. There's been so much monopolization in the agriculture space. There are really like three companies that provide all the seeds and four companies that make all the fertilizer and two companies that provide all the machineries. And so basically this money goes to the farmers to pay off their debts with all of these big ag companies. And so we're not really looking at any relief for these communities because what's happening at the rural healthcare is hurting our farmers. Cuts to Medicaid and Medicare are hurting our rural healthcare system. That hurts farmers. Cuts to our public schools in a lot of these communities, they're only public schools. We are making it harder for people to access education there. I mean, there's just all of these things that we're doing to harm these communities. And this little $12 billion bailout I'm glad it's happening, but it feels like a drop in the bucket for what we really need.
Right.
We need real sustainable change and we need to stabilize the market and the farm system. They can't keep just changing the rules on these folks and screwing with the markets. That's really problematic. And providing support that farmers and their families need to live and thrive. And that includes the healthcare piece of it. I don't know if you saw, there was an amazing 60 Minutes piece a few weeks back that talked about the increasing rates of farmer suicide. That is very real and very real in our communities. The strain on these family farms, it's really bad. And the farm economy here is so important. And even here in Omaha, there are a lot of people who grew up on a family farm or remember going home for Christmas to their grandma's farm or, detasseled corn as their summer job. Look it up, Paige. You can do that when you come raise chickens here. You can
Yes.
detassel corn. I hear it's very messy. But, people have such a connection to the rural community that this is like people, even here in Omaha, Midtown Omaha, where I live, are really genuinely worried about this. And we just have to do better by these guys. This is such an important contributor to the economy overall. Certainly here in Nebraska, we just need to do better by farmers and make it real sustainable change and not this roller coaster.
It's very interesting that you noted how, Omaha's the big city in Nebraska. It's interesting that you noted how tied to the rural communities people that live in Omaha are, because in a state that's super blue, like I'm in, like Illinois, you don't really get that. Like, people have family that live, maybe in another smaller actual city, but like there's not a lot of people I know that are connected with rural Illinois. And I think that's part of where we get like our problems from of like not really focusing on rural policy, but it's very interesting and good, I think, that even your city
Mhm.
folk are interested in keeping the rural community afloat in a
Yeah.
sustainable way.
Yeah. I mean, I can be on a farm in 20 minutes from my house, and I live in the middle of the city. Um,
Right,
that's how close everything is. We've got farmers who live 20 miles away, and they're
right.
farming out there. This is a very big part of who we are in this state. I mean, if you look at the map of the state, like Omaha is this little teensy weensy dot on the far east side. And then you've got the rest of the state. I mean, you've got Lincoln, right, our capital, and we have a few other bigger cities, Grand Island and Kearney and stuff in the third district, but most of the state is rural.
Right.
And so it's critically important. These conversations are critically important.
So let's talk about energy costs and clean energy. As clean energy production is expanding, many Nebraskans are starting to see higher utility bills. How do you think Congress should manage the clean energy transition in a way that keeps things affordable for families?
So I I was doing some more digging into this week too, because it's a big conversation. We have public power here in Nebraska. We're sort of a unique state with our public power districts. One of the things that is driving up energy costs is the fact that we have an aging power grid, and it requires some investment in that grid to like expand its ability to generate power. And we have this is like a modern challenge is that we have this greater need for more power because of AI, because of data centers. So it's kind of this brave new world that we need to figure out how to manage. But
Right.
one of the things that I learned is oftentimes when, say, the Omaha Public Power District needs to do an expansion project, it could take 2 to 3 years for the federal government to study it, to approve it, to let it move forward. So, one of the things I think the federal government could do is get rid of some of that red tape and move these projects forward a little bit quicker. But the other challenge, going back to tariffs and how they are messing with everything, is that all of the things, all of the materials that it takes to do these projects, so copper, steel, concrete, specialized labor that knows how to build these things and expand these things, they're all more expensive right now. The costs are all astronomical. And so all of these projects to expand the grid, to improve the grid, to generate more power are costing a lot of money. I mean, two, three, four, five times what they used
Right.
to cost. And unfortunately, that comes back to the consumer in a rate increase. And so supporting expansion projects that add more energy, that add more generation capabilities to the grid, I think are really important. But also, again, in this brave new world, like making sure that we are being really smart about how we expand without doing, irreversible harm to our communities. But I keep thinking I talked to a woman who runs a nonprofit that deals with food insecurity. And she was saying, our challenge is always we need to be able to serve and we need to be able to solve at the same time. And like people need some relief on their energy bills right now.
Right.
It is flipping cold in Nebraska. It's going to be like 15 degrees tomorrow. Like, you know, people are using more energy just to stay warm in their homes. Um, we need some relief now. We need to do something now that gives people a break. But we also need to make sure that we're planning ahead in the long term. And that's where those expansion projects and stuff come in. And then returning some of those, clean energy tax credits, like just some of the common sense things that are just going to make it a little bit easier for people to afford their bills at the end of the month. I think that's common sense. That's the serve part. And then let's figure out how to solve for the future.
Right. What's the saying? Fixing the airplane while it's flying?
While it's flying.
Seems like that
Totally.
seems like what you're
Yeah.
describing.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's so much of this is like we talk about all these policies that are going to take like years to, enact but people need relief right now, like
Right.
right now. And so I think that's going to be the challenge, if and when I make it to Congress, it's like, what can we do right now?
Right.
Where can we find common ground? It may not be perfect, but damn it, like, can we give people some relief right now and then figure out some of these bigger, uglier challenges as we go?
Right. Well, and the other part of, fixing the plane while it's flying is not pulling the rug out from under people, like not just getting rid of the ACA and being like, we'll put
Yes.
something in place later. Like, no, you gotta fix the plane while
Yeah.
it's in
Right
the
now.
air.
The plane's in the air. It's very dangerous. Yeah.
You can't just
Yes.
not take the plane out of the air. Like, we gotta
Nope.
get some mechanics out there while it's flying.
Yep. We can't let the pilots parachute out of the plane. Like, everybody rally and yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And all of these things are like it's a domino effect. If you don't
Right.
address some of these things now, it just, again, it exacerbates the existing issue. And that basic thing is that families are struggling, or people are struggling right now. And all of these issues just create a domino effect.
Right. Well, and that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is how tied into each other a lot of issues are.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Like, when
Uh-huh.
people don't have access to food or healthcare, they're going to resort to stealing food or, going to some underground doctor service that's probably not going to be the best for them. Like, it perpetuates more societal ailments, and people don't seem to
Yes.
understand that when they talk about policies as if it's just that one policy, but it's
Yes.
so connected to so many other things.
Yes. 100%. No more is that true than in healthcare when I keep telling people, like, if you take Medicaid away from people, if you make it so that people cannot afford their ACA care, um, those people are going to end up getting sick, not seeing a doctor when they need it. They're going to end up in the ER. Somebody needs to pay that bill. Those costs trickle down to everybody else. So it's going to jack up
Right.
your insurance costs. So even if you can't find it in your heart to find any empathy for people who are on Medicaid right now and are at risk of losing their health care, know that this is going to trickle down and impact you
Right.
and your life. And that's what people need to understand. Like, we are all in this together in this moment, whether you like it or not. And we've got to make some change. Otherwise, we're all in a lot of trouble.
Right. So, speaking of healthcare, rural hospitals in Nebraska are struggling to attract and retain providers. What kind of policies do you think would make the biggest impact on strengthening rural healthcare systems?
That is one of the biggest things that we're dealing with right now. So there was a rural healthcare clinic closure the day after the big, beautiful bill passed here in Nebraska, Curtis, Nebraska, because they just knew that they weren't going to be able to subsist. And depending on who you talk to, anymore from 5 to 12 that are like on the chopping block over the next year. And it is a huge problem. Like I said, a big majority of the state is rural. And there are people who have to drive an hour to see a doctor, an hour to get to an urgent care clinic. We have maternal health care deserts all over the state. And we have a massive shortage of primary health care physicians, especially in rural parts of our state. And there's a lot of things that I think the federal government could do to help there. First is creating more programs to incentivize primary health students, med students, to want to stay in the primary healthcare field. And then, have some sort of loan forgiveness programs if they'll go support and work in rural healthcare settings. This recent Trump administration policy that made nurses and physicians assistants, deemed them not professional. And so now they can't access the same resources for
Right.
advanced care is a huge issue in rural communities, because in a lot of those communities, that's what they have. They have a nurse practitioner who does everything. And if that nurse practitioner doesn't have the resources, that they need to access even more education and become an even better provider who can do more, then, you're tying their hands behind their backs. That is a huge, huge problem for our rural communities. And the other piece of it is fully funding Medicare and Medicaid, because a lot of our rural hospitals depend on Medicare and Medicaid for most of their funding. So when talking about pulling the rug out from under them, when we pull out the rug under our rural hospitals, like, that's it. They're screwed. And I was talking earlier about brain drain and how much our rural communities think about brain drain. This is part of it. Like, if you can't access a doctor, if there's no OBGYN, if there's no primary care doctor, if there's an accident on the farm and now someone needs to airlift you to the nearest hospital, that's a problem. That's a real, real problem. It's a problem because people are going to get out of that part of the state the minute they can. It's a problem because it's going to put even more financial strain on our farmers and on our rural families and our farm families. It's a huge, huge issue, and one that, again, it's an economic issue. For our state, it's an economic issue. And it just is one that we need to have it be a top priority very, very soon, because it's really dangerous what's coming to some of these rural communities with these cuts.
It's, I don't know what adjective I want to use. Funny, I guess? Not that funny, but how a lot
Yeah.
of Republican representatives will are represent these rural areas, are
Yeah.
sometimes from rural areas, and I can't this is what's funny about it, is that I can't understand if they're from those areas and they represent those areas, how they're not seeing it or
Yeah.
not believing it. Like, I would love to know what their thought
Hmm.
process is, but
Hmm.
it's infuriating.
It is infuriating. We have 3 House representatives in Nebraska. We have Don Bacon here in District 2. We have Mike Flood in District 1, and we have Adrian Smith in District 3. District 1 and District 3 in particular is almost exclusively rural. It's very rural. And District 1 is as well. Obviously, District 2 has a lot of chunks of rural communities too. All 3 of those gentlemen voted for the big, beautiful bill. One of them admitted in the town hall that he hadn't read the whole thing. So I have so many questions, so many questions about it. And the most frustrating thing about politics right now is that I don't know who these people are serving, but it sure as hell is not their constituents, because people in this
Right.
state are getting hosed. And it is so frustrating. And I don't know who who's writing their paycheck. I don't know what is happening behind the scenes that is making these people think that this is a good idea, because I know they're hearing it from their constituents. Mike
Right.
Flood in District 1 tried to have a town hall and he just got just hammered. It was all over the news. It was so bad. And the other 2 won't even do it. They're just kind of hiding. They're in hiding because they know how unpopular these policies are. These policies are so unpopular and people see it. And I think there's going to be a reckoning in 2026. I really,
Right.
really do. And we're already starting to see it.
Right. Well, that's what is so bizarre to me, is that like,
Yeah.
you can't just outrun this. Like, you can't just
Hmm.
put your head in this. First of all, a lot of these things are going to take effect at the first of the year, which is coming up. Like, you can't just put your head in the sand for another 11 months and pray that people forget all about it.
Yeah.
Like, whatever happens
That
in January, people are still going to feel it in November when they go and vote.
Yes. And that, I think that is like the MO of this administration, is like they do something crappy and then everyone rails against it and people are really upset about it. And so then they try to like throw some money at it. It's like this Farm Rescue Act or whatever stupid name it has. Like, they created this problem where our farmers are having to sell off land that they've owned for generations, where they like can barely put food on their own table, where they've got grain elevators and storage barns filled with soybean that they can't sell anywhere. And then the Trump administration's like, "Oh, we'll throw you a few bucks to pay off some of your bills."
Right.
Like, this is their MO. And
Yeah.
the American people aren't stupid. Nebraskans are not stupid. Like, they see what this is, what is happening in this state. And I choose to believe that come next year, like, we're going to see better angels show up and say, like, enough is enough. Enough is
Right.
enough. We've had enough. But obviously,
Yeah.
we need something new.
You are right, though. That is the MO. Trump loves, and I guess
Yeah.
Republicans in
He
general,
loves
love
it.
to create a problem
Yep.
and then be like, I fixed it.
Pat myself on the back. I did it.
And every
I
time
fixed it.
I'm like, you've literally made that problem. I'm like, what are you
Uh-huh.
talking about?
Uh-huh. They're like toddlers. I mean, that was when my kids were little, they would like drop something and break it and then be like, "Oh, I fix it." And like, "No, you didn't fix it. You you broke
Well,
it.
you made that mess.
You made that mess. You made that mess." It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. But again, like, the American people are not stupid. They
Right.
might be busy, they might not be paying attention because they've got other things going on, but they're not stupid. And it's that's our job, is to just be like, remember that this is why this feels this way. If you're
Right.
struggling right now, if things are harder, it's not you. Like, yeah, things are harder for
Right.
everybody. It's nothing you're doing wrong. It's this administration that has
Right.
chosen to declare war on middle class families, declare war on farmers, declare war on working people, time and time again.
Right. Well, and right now it's really prevalent with the discussion around the economy. How
Yeah.
today's December 10th, he had his first stop of his affordability tour, and at his first stop of the named affordability tour said, don't think it's real. Sir, what
Democratic
is this
hoax.
tour for? Yeah, exactly. Democrat hoax. It's insane.
This is the same man who said that groceries was a quaint little word. Like, there's no the there is no understanding. They are so deeply removed from the lives of normal people.
Right.
They just don't get it. It is so clear. Every press conference, every statement, they just don't get it. Or maybe they do
Right.
and they just don't care. And either way,
Right. Well, that's
it's not
what, so
okay.
when you say like people aren't stupid, like, yeah, they're not. Like again, with the conversation around the economy of people even that like voted for him starting to be like, oh, like this might be his fault. And he just will stand there and be like, no, it's Biden's fault. I'm sorry, you've been in office for
Yeah.
a year. Like,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
people
to
aren't
say
stupid to that.
affordability is a
Right.
hoax, like,
Right.
it's not a hoax when you go buy a bag of coffee and it's
Exactly.
$20 or like, that's not a hoax.
Well, and thinking people just aren't going to like see that. Like they're just going to
Right.
put
Yeah.
the receipt
You
away
can't
and go, hope
gaslight
I.
people.
Right.
Right.
You can't
Oops.
gaslight people into affording things.
Yes. It just doesn't work. I mean, I know
Right.
they'd love to, but it just doesn't work.
So let's move on and talk about education. What investments or reforms do you believe are essential to strengthen public education and also rebuild trust in our democratic institutions, especially in rural communities that, quite frankly, are overlooked?
Yeah. We have an incredible story to tell as it relates to education in Nebraska. So, I was the communications director on a campaign called Nebraska Loves Public Schools, and we would go all over the state finding cool stories, things that schools were doing around the state that were interesting and unique and innovative. And what that really shows you is that we have some incredible public schools. We have an amazing story to tell here, but also really highlights the gaps in our communities that our schools are often at the front lines, trying to fill. And they do it without the resources sometimes, without specialized staff. And they do it most of the time without even complaining. They just do it. And, I mean, we're like our school, and my son is in sixth grade at a public school here. And we had turkey bingo a few weeks ago, and they made it all free for the family. So everybody could come and have a hot dog and chips and play bingo. And it was so fun. And they'd set up a food pantry because this was November when SNAP benefits were cut. And the teachers took it among themselves to just set up a food pantry in the vestibule so that families could grab stuff while they were leaving. Like nobody asked them to do that. They just did that. And so our schools in this state, the public schools serve 90% of all students. And we have
Wow.
pushed back on school voucher programs. So the legislature passed a school voucher bill that would divert public money and send it to private schools. And we were able to overturn that at the ballot box. And that's just a testament to the fact that people love their schools. And we have plenty of counties in this state that don't even have a private school. And so really they were looking at it as like, so wait, you're taking my tax money to give it to private schools in Omaha, when I'm out in Valparaiso
Right.
or Scottsbluff or Gering or wherever. So people here really love their schools. So making the case for supporting public schools it's not hard. It's not hard here. The federal government, as part of the One Big Beautiful Bill, has tried to enact a federal voucher program. And our Republican government is trying to adopt that here, even though the voters of Nebraska have spoken very clearly
Mm-hmm.
about where they want taxpayer money to go.
Right.
So that's something that I think needs to be addressed immediately. But I think all the other supports that schools provide, early childhood education, after school programs, special education programs that are under threat right now in this current administration, on it to be brought back together. Head Start programs, more teacher training. I think we need to pay our teachers better because they're doing really, really hard work. And I think investing in our schools, I think there should be some dollars in there from the federal government to help structurally invest in our schools. We're really lucky. We're in one of the public schools where we just were able to pass a bond a few years ago and renovate the school. But I know that's not true for a lot of other schools across the
Right.
state. And they're working very hard. Obviously, school funding is tied to property taxes and all kinds of things here in our state. But it also is really problematic when the federal government cuts additional funding. I know here the Omaha public school system has lost millions of dollars in federal funding. No one's getting rich in a public school system. These schools need
Right.
every dollar they can get. And the federal government cutting funding to the schools is just making the very real issues that our schools are dealing with every day that much worse. And for so many of our communities, for so many of our kids, schools are the safe place. It's the safe place for so many of our families. That's where they go when they don't know how to navigate something, when they're struggling making those bill, the utility payments, or they're struggling to put food on the table. They go to the principal, they go to the school counselor, they go to their teacher. Our schools are a resource that go well above just educating our children, although that is clearly an incredibly important part of it. And I just think that if we're a society that says that we care about American innovation and American economy and American success, but we're not investing in the strength of our public education system, then what are we even doing?
Right.
That to me is like step one. And obviously, you can probably tell this is something that I'm like really, really passionate about. I've been a PTA mom for, let's see, doing the math now, like 10 years I've been on the PTA. What our teachers do every day, they deserve a medal and they deserve all the support that they can get. And our families deserve that too. And our kids deserve that too.
I had a former Department of Education worker on. Her name was Jasmine Bolton, and she currently works for a nonprofit, but she used to work in Biden's Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that public schools are our children's first look at democracy and how democracy works.
Yes, I love that.
And everything that you just said, I think, speaks so much to that because, like you said, schools are so much more than just, the place you go to learn for 8 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in a rural community, your public school can be like literally everything.
Yeah, it is the place. It is the place. It's the place where people gather. I would go knock doors and talk to people, and not only were their children at the public school, but they had gone to that public school and their parents had gone to that public school. I mean, they're so central to our communities. They're so important to our communities. And I think we should invest more in it. I think we could be doing more as it relates to like vocational and technical education to fill some of the gaps that we have. There's just so much more that we could be doing. And I feel like investing in our schools is always going to be money well spent. Always. Like, I think the return
Right.
on investment, if you're just looking at it from a business investment standpoint, like the return on investment on education is always going to be worth it.
Right. Absolutely. So let's start to close out. Let's get a little bit more lighthearted about this and get out of our down in the dumps policy discussion. So
Yay.
despite all the challenges that Nebraskans are facing right now, what still gives you hope about Nebraska and the people that you want to represent?
God, Nebraskans always show up. They always show up. Like really, really. When we had our when the president cut SNAP funding, we had 150,000 people in our community that were going to lose food. And the amount of food drives that cropped up within 24 hours of that announcement were incredible. I mean, the city of Omaha did one with our new mayor, and it was incredible. We did one on our campaign just at some small businesses, and the amount of donations, we were collecting diapers and food and menstrual products, and like people just who don't know anything about me just saw a bin at a coffee shop and, dumped in some diapers and some canned soup. And like that to me is incredible. There is a teacher at my son's school who's a second grade teacher. She's been there for years. She's a veteran teacher. Every year, she and her mom and her sisters, for the whole year, they spend the whole year collecting backpacks and toys and books and blankets and things so that every single second grader at this school can have a Christmas gift. She's a second grade
so
teacher.
Sweet.
Husbands, this is what
You're
people
gonna make me
do.
cry.
I just like these are the people that inspire me every freaking day. Like these are just real humans who don't have all the answers, and like they're getting crapped on right now by their government and the world, and she's doing it right now. She's collecting her blankets and her toys and her backpacks to make sure that every kiddo has a Christmas gift. That is what gives me hope. It's that even in times that are dark and horrible and icky, people still show up. They still show up for each other all the time. We're doing a toy drive this weekend for an awesome nonprofit called Bridges. There's just like people will always show up. They will always show up, even when things are really, really tough. And so the least I could do is show up too and try to fight and try to represent and try to stand up for these people who always show up for everyone else.
Right. I don't live in Nebraska, as we've discussed, so I wish
you
I
should,
did.
but we've discussed how you're going to move here. Yeah.
But I didn't get to see the food drives that you guys had, but I was also astounded just in my own community about, again, how quickly these drives popped up and how amply people delivered. Like, I volunteered at one, and there was so much food. I want to say it took us like 15 to 20 like SUV loads. Like, and that was one food.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Like, it's been insane to witness. And you're right, people will show up. Like,
They will.
in the darkest of times, people will show up.
And in those moments, they're not asking, are you Republican? Are you Democrat? Are you independent? Like, they're just like, you're hungry. Here's some food. And like that.
Right.
God, can we get back to that? Like, that's what this should be about, right? Like, that's amazing. What an amazing thing to just show up for someone because you know they need it. Not because they're perfectly aligned with you politically, but because you know that they need your help in that moment.
Yeah. So you've spent a lot of time knocking on doors, and I'm sure you have heard that people are exhausted and disillusioned and they don't want to pay attention anymore. What would you say to those voters to try and bring them back into the fight?
I would say do not give up hope. Hope is in short supply right now. It's hard out there. It's hard out there. And I'm talking to people who are finding themselves in very, very difficult situations right now. But don't give up hope because, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, like, people keep showing up. Like, have faith in this community. Have faith in the decisions that we hope they're going to make in May and our primary, in November in our general election. Have faith in the fact that people see the things that are happening in this world right now and they're not happy. And that's the thing. Like, I'm talking to people all over this district of all stars and stripes, of all walks of life, and people get it. They get it. They get that things are hard for folks. Have faith in your neighbors, have faith in this process. Democracy is fragile. We've seen it. You know, if you didn't know it before, I hope you know it now. Democracy is fragile, and it's going to take all of us showing up in whatever ways that we can. And maybe that means donating some food to your local food bank. And that's great. If that is what you can do right now, do that right now. But be somebody else's hope, because we all need hope, and hope is contagious. So just keep showing up. Do nice things. Lift up your communities. You don't have to be like Mr. or Mrs. Political. Just care for your communities. And that's enough. That's going to be enough. And I really, really believe change is coming in 26. I am so freaking excited to be a part of it. I feel really hopeful, even with all the crap that's going on. I feel really, really hopeful in this moment that we're going to do some really big things in 26 in Nebraska and around the country. I'm fired up. And I believe in the state. I believe in those better angels, and we're just going to keep on fighting.
And if we get 2026 and hopefully the next few elections after that correct, what is the future that you imagine for Nebraska families?
I want that good life back. I want that good life back. I want people like you, Paige, to be like, dang, Nebraska sounds amazing. And I want in on that.
If you're the one pitching it, I'm sure you could get a lot of people to go because you kind of sold me.
It is a great place. And I want everybody to have a shot at it. That's the key. I want everybody to have a shot at it. Living a good life shouldn't be limited to your one particular zip code. Everyone should have a shot at it. And we can't do that if we're not working our butt off and consistently working to create a world where people can afford to live, can afford to get ahead, can afford to thrive. That's the key. And I just want everybody to have a shot at it. And I want people, come November 2026, I want people to go, damn, did you see what happened in Nebraska? Because it's exactly what we were talking about earlier. Like, people don't think of Nebraska as, you know, this potential blue dot, but it is. And if we can do big things here in 2026, the message I think that sends to the rest of the country is huge. It's huge. And I feel it. It's coming. Watch out. You heard it here first. And then it's on.
Right. Okay. One last softball question for you. Hypothetically, I'm coming to Nebraska too.
Yes.
I'm like, Denise, where am I going to go for food? What is your go-to restaurant in Nebraska too?
Paige, this is not a softball question. This is a very difficult and
you are not
question.
You are not the first guest to have issues with this question.
This is really hard. So Nebraska is a real food town. See, I'm going to sell you even more. Nebraska is a real foodie town. We have a huge food scene. We have some incredible chefs. We have some like James Beard nominee chefs. And then there are some real hidden gems that I really love. So,
Okay.
yeah, this honestly, I
You
think
can
this
break
is
it
the
up. You
hardest
could do
question
like
you've
a
asked me.
favorite breakfast, a favorite lunch, a
Okay,
favorite dinner. You can break it up however you want.
I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna start with fast food.
Okay.
Runza. Have you ever had runza?
No, but why do I know the
Mm-hmm.
name? Are they
Because
outside of Nebraska too?
Tim Walz was really big on runza. Vice presidential nominee
I
Tim
think
Walz,
you're
Governor Tim
correct.
Walz.
Yes.
He was real into runza. You may not be into the runza, which is like a little meat pocket with cabbage and beef. It's delicious. But if you're not, they have excellent burgers and
Okay.
chicken tenders, which is our favorite. There are some incredible Mediterranean restaurants. We really love a little place called Zaytuna that is
Okay.
owned by an Afghani refugee family, and they're amazing. And their baba ganoush is phenomenal. It's just a little hole in the wall. If you want steak, people here will tell you to go to the Drover, which is the most Nebraskan steakhouse you can ever go to.
Wait, can you
Warren Buffett
explain that? What
really
do you mean by most
well, it's just
Nebraskan?
it's like you got a lot of wagon wheels.
Okay. Got it.
You know what I
I'm
mean? They've
picturing it.
got a
Yes. We have
really,
those out in like rural Illinois. Yes.
yes. They have a real good whiskey steak. It's
Mm-hmm.
very delicious. Um, yeah, there's a lot. And I really like food. We had, there's a place here called Yoshitomo, which has a James Beard nominated chef who's incredible. Sushi. If you're into sushi and kind of high-end Japanese, it's really fantastic. I mean, we have a lot of good food here. We have amazing food trucks. Um, there's just a lot. There's a lot to choose from, and there's always something new opening. And so it's like
Yeah, you're teaching me
some
things
good stuff.
I never knew about Nebraska.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's like
we have
every
a great
time you open your mouth,
beer.
I learn something new.
Yeah, Brickway is an amazing brewery. We have incredible craft beer here. I mean, we have a lot. We have a lot of good spots.
Ugh. Okay,
I
now
know.
you've convinced me.
See?
I feel like I have to, at the very least, take a trip.
I think you do. Come on down.
All right. Well, that is all that I have for you. Is there anything else that you feel like I might have missed?
No, this has been so much fun. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thanks for letting me hype up Nebraska. Check it out. Don't sleep on it. You can check out my website, deniseforcongress.org. But Google Nebraska, cool stuff, and you're going to be impressed. And I feel good about winning people over.
Is that the state where they have the world's largest ball of yarn, or is that somewhere else?
Ball of stamps.
Ball of twine?
Ball of stamps. Ball of stamps.
Okay. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. I will have your website linked in the show notes, and then I will also have the link to donate so people can go ahead and do that.
Yay.
And yeah, that is all I have. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yay. Thank you so much. This was awesome. Thanks, Paige.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Current Affairs Unfiltered. I really hope you enjoyed my conversation with Denise. She really is a good saleswoman about Nebraska. I'm feeling like it might be a cool place to live. But if you do live in Denise's district, I do hope that you will vote for her. I will have her website and everything linked in the show notes so that you can go and donate to her and get in contact with her campaign, help out in any way that you can. Nebraska's primary is not until May, so there's time to volunteer and do whatever you would like to do with Denise's campaign. And yeah, next week we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming of guests and solo episodes, so that'll be nice. And yeah, that is all that I have for you guys. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to follow, leave a review, or share it with someone who could use this information, preferably somebody in Nebraska's 2nd District. To support this podcast, you can also subscribe to my Substack, She Knows the Score, which is linked in the show notes. And as always, if you have questions, topic suggestions, or just want to say hi, you can find me on social media at Current Affairs Unfiltered Pod on Instagram, or send me an email at currentaffairs.unfilteredpod@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Keep asking questions, stay engaged, and remember to plan your move to Nebraska. I will see you guys next week.